He was found alone, at the bottom of the church basement stairs, a pool of blood beneath his head, and a trail of flower petals no one could explain. At first, it looked like a tragic fall. But within days, it became clear. Someone wanted Pastor Micah Ellis silenced, and they nearly got away with it. Pine Brook, Alabama. A sleepy, southern town with front porches, home-cooked meals, and the kind of community where everyone waves whether they know you or not. It's the last place you'd expect a murder, especially one inside a church. At the center of Pine Brook stood First Light Baptist, a white wooden church with blue stained glass windows and a bell that rang every Sunday like clockwork. It was more than just a place of worship. It was tradition, reputation, and routine. And Micah Ellis was the heart of it. At just 28, Micah wasn't your average youth pastor. He was smart, compassionate, and had a way of connecting with people, especially the teens no one else could reach. He'd been with the church for 5 years and was often described as the future of the ministry. He helped organize food drives, ran Bible study nights, and was always available, whether someone needed advice, prayer, or just someone to talk to. But Micah had one habit that would come back to haunt him. He trusted too easily. Thursday night, June 23rd. Choir practice had just ended, and most of the congregation had already left. That's when James Carter, the church custodian, came back to lock up. The building was quiet. Too quiet. As he passed the stairwell to the basement, he noticed something strange. The lights were off, but the door was ajar. When he went down to investigate, he found Micah's body at the bottom of the steps. Motionless. Bleeding. Gone. James called 911, and within minutes, the scene was swarming with local authorities. At first glance, it looked like an accident. Maybe Micah had slipped in the dark. But it didn't add up. The church had security lights that always came on with motion. Micah knew those stairs well. And then there were the flower petals. White, fresh, scattered deliberately along the stairs. Pine Brook police opened a formal investigation the next morning. They ruled out robbery. Nothing had been taken. No forced entry. No signs of a struggle. But when the medical examiner reviewed the body, the report listed head trauma from blunt force, not a fall. The injury was consistent with being struck, not tumbling downstairs. Micah's phone was missing, along with his church-issued laptop. His personal journal, however, was found hidden behind books in his office. And what it revealed changed everything. In Micah's journal, investigators found entries written in the last 2 weeks of his life, and they were filled with fear. "I think someone's following me," he wrote. "I know what they did. I shouldn't have opened my mouth. If anything happens to me, it won't be random." The entries hinted at something bigger, something hidden beneath the church's polished exterior. Investigators began interviewing church members and quickly learned about a secret relationship Micah had been involved in with a married woman from the congregation. She confirmed the affair, reluctantly, and said Micah ended things weeks ago to avoid a scandal. But the drama didn't stop there. A deeper dig into the church's finances revealed that $43,000 had gone missing from the church's youth outreach fund over the last 6 months. Micah had reportedly raised concerns about it with Reverend Thomas Gray, the senior pastor, just 2 weeks before his death. And guess what? Reverend Gray announced his sudden retirement 3 days after Micah's body was found. But the biggest break came from an unexpected place: security footage. Most of the basement hallway cameras had been disabled that night. Odd, but not impossible. However, a side lobby camera caught a hooded figure entering through a side door shortly after choir practice ended. The figure wore gloves and walked with a noticeable limp. Facial recognition software identified the person as Caleb Morris, a former youth group member and once a close protege of Micah's. Caleb had disappeared from town years earlier after a run-in with the law and a stint in rehab. Police found Caleb living in Birmingham under a different name. When questioned, he denied everything, until forensics found his fingerprint on the broken stair rail, where Micah's body had landed. Under pressure, Caleb finally broke. He confessed that he'd been paid to scare Micah, not kill him. The person who hired him told him Micah had become a problem, and that they needed him to shut up or step down. Caleb claimed he met Micah in the basement that night to confront him. Things got heated. Micah tried to leave, and in the struggle, he fell. Caleb panicked and ran. But when police pressed him to name who paid him, Caleb went silent. His lawyer stepped in. The deal was off the table, and no charges were filed against anyone else. To this day, no one else has been arrested in connection with Pastor Micah's death. Micah's funeral drew hundreds from across the state. His youth group carried his coffin, and the church rang its bell 28 times, one for each year of his life. But something changed in Pine Brook after that. The trust was gone. Whispers of cover-ups and corruption haunted the pews of First Light Baptist. Families left. Donations dropped. And that tight-knit town suddenly felt just a little less safe, a little less faithful. Sometimes, evil doesn't come from outside the church walls. Sometimes, it's sitting right in the front row. This was Behind the Crime. Subscribe for more real stories that reveal what happens when silence protects the guilty, and the truth refuses to stay buried.